Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about this quick new book. It's called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never been a big fan of Dave Ramsey, but I got this book as a wedding gift of all things, and I'm finally getting around to reading it and at least learning what Dave Ramsey has to say. And the biggest thing that I'm learning so far is that if you are a normal person, are probably managing your money terribly wrong. Now, I'm only going to talk about 3 lessons that I've learned so far as I've began reading this book, okay? The first one, Dave Ramsey calls flying turkeys and skinny dipping. So what he says is that in today's financial climate, there are a bajillion people out there trying to tell you what to do in order to make money. And some of the advice is terrible. Some of the advice is not sound and is not going to work when times get hard. The analogy here that Dave Ramsey calls is flying turkeys. And he says, imagine this, imagine you're in a terrible storm, a tornado. If you were to look out your window during a terrible tornado, you might see some turkeys flying around even though they can't fly. Why? Because if the wind is crazy enough, even turkeys can fly. And that's the analogy, that when the market is crazy and absurd enough, even bad strategies will work. But just because it works doesn't mean they're good strategies. And the problem with bad strategies is that they are not scalable and they will fail in the long term. Now, the second similar analogy to flying turkeys is skinny dipping, right? And it actually comes from a quote from Warren Buffett, who said, when the tide goes out, that's when you can see who was skinny dipping. Kind of funny, I know. But the same principle holds true, that when the financial tide recedes, the bad strategies will show themselves and the good strategies will still work. Now, the second lesson that I learned from reading this book by Dave Ramsey is that debt is a tool for the lenders. It's not a tool for the person receiving the debt. Traditionally, financial people say that debt should be used as a tool, right? You have to build a credit score, use your credit cards, use debt responsibly, and you can use it to leverage yourself financially into better positions. And that is a very scary truth and a risky path to walk down, according to Dave Ramsey. And the lesson here that I learned is that debt is a way that creditors can use their money to earn more interest. Right? It's a way for them to make money. It's not a way for you to make money. So the advice is avoid debt as much as possible. The analogy here is that if you feel like you need to use debt, that's like an undisciplined child feeling like he needs to buy the candy bar from the store. The truth is you don't. And if you're disciplined and if you manage your money better, you can buy things without debt and put you and your family in a much better financial position. Now, the third thing that I am learning and remembering as I'm reading this book is the importance of the principle of sacrifice. Sacrifice is very simply described as the ability to delay gratification. Or in other words, I'm going to give away my pleasure of getting what I want now in order to get what I want later in the future. You have to sacrifice today for tomorrow. Unfortunately, what most people do is they sacrifice tomorrow for the pleasures of today. And the truth is, the core of the Total Money Makeover is all about helping people become financially healthy and wealthy. And in order to do that, you have to learn how to sacrifice. See, the main keystone principles of personal finance are sacrifice, saving, and investing. If you can save, invest, and sacrifice, then I can guarantee you that's the secret. That's how wealthy people become wealthy. From what I've read so far, those are my 3 key takeaways from Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. Now, I'm not finished with this book yet. I still have about half the book left to read, And so I'm going to be posting a video next week describing the lessons that I've learned so far from the second half of the book. And if you're interested in reading along with me, go ahead and pick up a copy of this book down in the description below. I'm having a great time reading this book. I know you will too. And if you do have a copy of this book or you've read it before, go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you learned and what you liked. And we can learn a little bit more about personal finance together. Thanks so much for your time, everybody. And I'm looking forward to talking to you next week.